What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive into our first news. Magomed has once again accused Alex Pereira of cheating in their first fight. This isn't the first time the topic has come up, but Magomed brought it back during a recent interview, adding more fuel to the fire surrounding their rivalry. He recalled how difficult that training camp had been for him, saying he was dealing with multiple injuries and couldn't wrestle properly for most of it. Despite those challenges, he went into the fight, but what really stuck with him was how he felt Alex was too slippery during the exchanges. Magomed explained that he immediately told his coach in the corner about the unusual feeling, saying that Alex's body felt greased and that it made it much harder to get a hold of him. He stressed that he spars every single day, he trains every single day, and he knows the difference between a normal sweaty opponent and someone who feels excessively slippery. According to him, this wasn't just the usual sweat you expect during a fight, this was something that felt different and, in his words, too greasy. Back when the accusations were first made, Alex Pereira quickly denied all the rumors. He strongly stated that there was no cheating on his part and dismissed the claims of greasing. But Magomed, while careful with his words, stood by his experience inside the cage. He admitted that he isn't directly accusing Alex of anything illegal, but he couldn't shake off how unnatural the grip felt. He also acknowledged that in professional sports, situations like these can occur, and fighters just have to deal with them. Still, his words carried weight, especially now that he's bringing them up again long after the fight took place. For Magomed, the combination of a rough training camp, his injuries, and the feeling of facing someone slippery all played into how the fight turned out. He feels it definitely had an impact and was a major factor in his performance. The way he described it, you could sense the frustration of going into such a high-level fight already compromised, only to feel like there was another element stacked against him. Alex, on the other hand, has continued to push forward in his career, leaving the accusations behind him. But every time Magomed revisits the topic, it sparks debate among fans and adds more tension to their storyline. Whether it's considered mind games, genuine concern, or just part of fight talk, it keeps people talking and ensures that their rivalry never truly cools down. Moving on to another news, Israel Adesanya has made it clear that he is no longer chasing a rematch with Sean Strickland. A few months ago, there was plenty of talk about Adesanya calling out Strickland for another fight, with fans expecting a possible run back after their first meeting. However, during a recent appearance on Submission Radio, Adesanya revealed that he has completely moved on and is focused on looking ahead, not backward. He explained his mindset by saying that if you want to get something done right, you have to do it right the first time. That was the lesson he took from the whole experience. Adesanya acknowledged that Strickland is busy with his own life, doing his own thing and making the money he wanted to make. Instead of sitting around waiting for Strickland, Adesanya said he isn't interested in being stalled by what others are doing. For him, the goal now is simple. He just wants to fight. Adesanya's words carried a tone of finality, almost as if he has closed the chapter with Strickland for good. He doesn't seem bothered about what comes next for Strickland and isn't hung up on getting revenge or trying to prove anything from that fight. Instead, his focus is on staying active, staying sharp, and keeping his career moving forward. It's clear that Adesanya is determined to regain momentum, and that means fighting whoever is next in line rather than waiting for a rematch that may or may not happen. By choosing to let go of the Strickland fight, he has opened the door for other exciting opportunities. For fans, it signals that Adesanya is ready to return with the same hunger and drive that made him a superstar in the first place. Moving on to another news, Merab has called out Umar Nurmagomedov for being disrespectful, and it looks like this tension is not going away anytime soon. During a sit-down with Daniel Cormier this week, the bantamweight champ opened up about the origins of his beef with Umar, explaining how things shifted after the UFC gave Umar a big opportunity. According to Merab, when Umar was facing unranked fighters, he was quiet and respectful, but the moment he got matched up with a highly ranked opponent like Corey Sandhagen, his behavior completely changed. Suddenly, Umar started talking in a way that Merab felt was out of line, not only toward him but toward several other fighters as well. Merab revealed that he actually recorded a video inside the UFC Institute that captured some of this interaction. In the clip, Umar allegedly made comments right to their faces, saying things like Merab is old, Dominic Cruz is old, and Cody Garbrandt is old too. Merab explained that Umar was disrespecting multiple veterans of the division without hesitation, and the fact that it was said directly to his face is what really stuck with him. He even mentioned that he would be willing to share that video publicly so fans could see it for themselves and understand why this issue has escalated. In the meantime, Merab has stayed sharp by getting rounds in with none other than Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. The two had an intense training session, and at one point Merab caught Johnson in a neck crank-style scarf hold submission. Johnson later admitted that it felt like his ribs were about to pop, highlighting just how much pressure Merab was applying. Despite the intensity, the session wasn't all serious. There was a funny moment when Merab pointed to the mats and joked about Max Holloway, leading Johnson to laugh and say, "I'm 39, I can't have no concussions." It was the kind of lighthearted exchange that shows the respect and camaraderie between two elite fighters even while pushing each other in training. With Merab's upcoming fight against Corey Sandhagen right around the corner, the stakes at bantamweight have never been higher. The division is stacked with talent, and the mix of rising prospects and established names is creating constant buzz. Merab holding the title, Umar making noise, and contenders like Sandhagen, Sean O'Malley, and Petr Yan all staying active ensures there is no shortage of excitement. The rivalry between Merab and Umar only adds more drama to the picture, fueling interest in a potential clash between them down the line. For now, Merab is keeping his focus on the challenges directly in front of him, but he has made it clear that he isn't going to tolerate disrespect. If Umar continues to talk in the same manner, it seems inevitable that the two will meet inside the octagon. The bantamweight division is already one of the most competitive in the UFC, and rivalries like this make it even more thrilling for the fans. Moving on to another news, Joe Rogan recently opened up about how difficult it can be for him to watch UFC fighters, especially those he considers friends, suffer brutal losses inside the octagon. While Rogan is known for his professionalism and ability to stay unbiased when calling fights from the commentary booth, during a heartfelt episode of his podcast, he admitted that seeing people he knows and cares about get viciously knocked out is one of the hardest parts of the job. Rogan specifically mentioned Daniel Cormier and Brendan Schaub as two names that stood out in his memory. With Cormier, Rogan recalled the devastation he felt watching him lose for the second time to Jon Jones, and even more so when Stipe Miocic knocked him out in their trilogy of battles. He described how watching those fights was heartbreaking because Cormier isn't just a fighter to him, he's a friend and someone he deeply respects. Seeing a man like that take such punishment in front of the world was almost unbearable, and Rogan admitted that it hurt him on a personal level, comparing the feeling to losing a loved one or even a pet. It wasn't just the result of the fights that got to him, but knowing what kind of emotional and physical toll those knockouts would have on someone he knows personally. When it came to Brendan Schaub, Rogan became even more emotional. He remembered a moment back in 2014 when Schaub was still fighting, and Rogan confronted him directly on his podcast after noticing the cumulative damage from years of head trauma and concussions. He recalled how Schaub didn't want to quit, insisting that he could still compete at a high level, but Rogan felt the need to step in with some tough love. He told Schaub that fighters who get knocked out too often rarely have a happy ending to their careers, and that if he didn't step away soon, the damage could be permanent. Rogan admitted that conversation was incredibly emotional for him because it's never easy to tell a friend something that harsh, but he knew it was necessary. He revealed that Schaub had been knocked out too many times and was putting his long-term health in jeopardy by continuing. Rogan said moments like those are the most difficult part of his relationship with the sport. As a commentator and fan, he can admire the skill, toughness, and heart it takes to be a UFC fighter. But as a friend to many of these athletes, watching them endure knockouts, concussions, and career-altering damage is deeply painful. He admitted that sometimes he even starts crying when reflecting on those experiences, because it's not just about what happens in the cage, it's about the human cost behind it. With UFC 320, 322, and 323 all set to take place in the United States before the year closes, Rogan will be back in the booth for plenty of events. While he'll maintain his professional tone on fight night, his emotional reflections remind fans just how much these fighters mean to him beyond the broadcast. Moving on to another news, Khamzat is officially back in the gym and putting in serious work as he prepares for his first title defense. Earlier in the week, a short clip surfaced showing him training, but now even more footage has been released, giving fans a closer look at his grind. The new videos show Khamzat not only sharpening his own skills but also stepping into coach mode, working with younger fighters and sharing his knowledge. In one moment, he can be seen teaching a young prospect how to properly throw a body shot, breaking it down with precision and intensity, making sure every detail is correct. Khamzat's presence in the gym is a reminder of the work ethic that got him to the top. Even though he's already holding the belt, he continues to train like a hungry contender, pushing himself through long sessions and countless rounds. At one point, after wrapping up an exhausting series, he joked that 20 rounds weren't enough, showing his relentless mindset and drive to keep improving. For Khamzat, training is more than just preparation, it's a lifestyle, and with the cameras now catching these moments, fans can see the champion's determination up close. Moving on to another news, Ilia has shown serious interest in being the main event for the highly anticipated UFC White House card. With Jon Jones versus Thomas Spinell no longer an option for the headline fight, the promotion has yet to confirm who will take the spotlight next summer. On Thursday, Ilia went to social media and dropped a strong hint that he sees himself as the man for the job. He confidently wrote, "Who wants to bet with me that I'm the main event at the White House?" That statement alone sent fans into speculation mode as many started debating who he could possibly face if the UFC decides to run with his idea. One of the key reasons Ilia could end up as the headliner is the current state of the UFC champions. At the moment, there are no American-born champions holding belts, and that leaves the door wide open for Dana White to stack the White House card with a blockbuster international super fight. When thinking of potential super fights for Ilia, one name immediately comes to mind: Islam Makhachev. If Islam moves up and successfully captures welterweight gold, while Ilia continues to reign at featherweight, the possibility of a champion versus champion showdown would be massive for a card of this scale. The White House event is already shaping up to be historic, and a fight of that magnitude would make it unforgettable. At the same time, there's still chatter around Jon Jones and whether he could find himself back in the mix for this monumental card. Despite Dana White's recent comments shutting down that possibility, former champion Rashad Evans shared his thoughts on the matter. He explained that there's still plenty of time before the UFC finalizes the card, pointing out that Dana himself said serious planning won't even begin until February. Rashad believes there's always a chance, especially if Jon pushes hard enough to make it happen. According to Rashad, if Jon really wants to be on that card, the UFC should make him work for it. He said you have to make him beg a little bit, make him plead his case, and ensure that he's fully committed. That way there won't be any antics or distractions, and Jon would be forced to show up to practice, stay disciplined, and make sure he's in the best possible shape to perform on such a historic stage. Rashad pointed out that Dana has a history of backtracking on his statements, and while he can be firm, he also isn't someone who holds long grudges. That means the door might not be completely closed. As of now, nothing is set in stone, but the pieces are slowly coming together. Ilia's public confidence and Islam's dominance make for an intriguing storyline, while the lingering presence of Jon Jones keeps fans hooked. Whatever direction Dana chooses to take, the UFC White House card is building up to be one of the most talked about events in the sport's history. Moving on to another news, UFC Perth has taken another hit as yet another fight has been cancelled at the very last minute. Just last night it was revealed that Oban Elliot was forced to withdraw from his scheduled bout against Jonathan Malev. The reason given was an illness that prevented him from being able to compete. The UFC released a brief statement confirming that Elliot had been removed from the card due to illness, and that there would be no replacement opponent added for this matchup. Instead, the promotion is expected to reschedule the fight for a future event once Elliot recovers. While the details surrounding his illness remain unclear, the timing of this withdrawal only adds to the string of setbacks plaguing this card. Only a week ago, Perth already lost one of its co-main events, and now with this fight being pulled on such short notice, the criticism from media outlets suggesting that this event might turn out to be a flop is starting to gain more traction. Fans who were already worried about the overall quality of the card are now voicing even more frustration. A fight being removed at the last minute not only affects the fighters but also leaves the card looking weaker for those who purchase tickets expecting a full lineup. On top of all this, ticket sales for UFC Perth have been struggling. Reports surfaced just yesterday showing that only about half of the venue had been sold, a shocking number for what was supposed to be one of the bigger international cards. To try and address the poor sales, the promotion has now slashed prices across the board. Tickets that were originally much higher are now being offered for as low as $75 to $100 depending on the seat location. This drastic cut is a clear attempt to fill more of the arena and improve the overall atmosphere when fight night arrives. It is unusual for the UFC to drop prices this aggressively, which shows just how much of a challenge this event has faced. Between the cancellation of a co-main fight, the last-minute removal of Oban Elliot due to illness, and the ongoing struggles with ticket sales, UFC Perth is shaping up to be one of the more difficult events the promotion has had to push in recent years. While the remaining fights still promise action, the combination of uncertainty and setbacks has definitely left fans questioning whether this card can deliver on the hype it was originally built around. Moving on to another news, Rampage Jackson is once again making headlines with bold statements about how he would fare in today's UFC. During a recent appearance on the HJR podcast, the former light heavyweight champion reflected on his career and gave fans his take on the current state of the division. Rampage explained that by the time he joined the UFC, he had already fought more than 30 times around the world. Despite the wear and tear on his body, he still managed to capture the light heavyweight title in only his second fight inside the octagon, where he famously knocked out Chuck Liddell to become champion. That moment solidified him as one of the most dangerous fighters of his era, but Rampage insists that a prime version of himself would be absolutely unstoppable if he was competing right now. He went on to describe just how confident he is in that belief. Rampage said if he had the chance, he would give up everything he owns, every material item, just to buy a time machine and bring back Prime Rampage into the current UFC. He said the only thing he wouldn't give up is his soul, but everything else would be gone if it meant proving how dominant he could be. In his own words, he claimed that Prime Rampage would run right through the light heavyweight division, going toe-to-toe with anyone standing in his way and tearing through the weight class like a wrecking ball. Rampage's comments carried a mix of nostalgia and pride, as he acknowledged his incredible run during the peak of his career while also imagining how his style would match up against today's contenders. He emphasized his ability to stand and trade with anyone, insisting that his power, aggression, and durability would overwhelm modern fighters just like it did in his prime. While it's impossible to know for sure, fans can't help but think about how some dream matchups would have looked if Prime Rampage was dropped into the cage today. Interestingly, Rampage has not completely left the fight game. Earlier this year, he was actually scheduled to box Rashad Evans, a fellow former champion and longtime rival. The fight was expected to bring back some old memories for fans who remembered their heated feud in the UFC, but unfortunately, the bout never happened. Rampage revealed that the promoters involved didn't follow through on their promises, which led both fighters to call it off. Despite the disappointment, Rampage continues to keep himself in the spotlight, and with statements like this, he reminds everyone just how much belief he still has in his legacy and his ability to compete at the highest level. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.